You know the game. You've played it 100 times. You know where every enemy spawns, how to break the system, and the fastest route to get exactly what you want. And still, you hit new game. Again. Why? Why do we keep coming back to the same game over and over? Let's talk about it. Let's start simple. Comfort. You come home from a long day, you're tired, maybe stressed. You could try that new game sitting in your library, but instead, your fingers move instinctively toward that one game you've played countless times. Why? Because it's safe. Not just in the literal sense, like you won't die in the first 5 minutes, but in the psychological sense. You already know what's going to happen. You already know how it feels. You know the rhythm, the music, the patterns. There's no uncertainty, and that is incredibly soothing for the brain. In psychology, there's something called the mere exposure effect. It's the idea that the more we're exposed to something, the more we tend to like it, just because it's familiar. And in moments of emotional fatigue or decision overload, that familiarity becomes a form of self-care. That's why games like Animal Crossing, Minecraft, or even Dark Souls for the truly hardened among us can become comfort games. They serve a specific emotional function, not just fun, but stability. And for many of us, these games are tied to moments in our lives. The game you played in college, the game you played with a sibling, a soundtrack that instantly reminds you of winter nights in 2013, that's not just nostalgia, it's emotional anchoring. We return to these games not just to play, but to reconnect with versions of ourselves we may have forgotten, and that can be deeply powerful. Games can become rituals of identity, reminders of who we were, who we are, or who we want to be. There's another reason we keep replaying the same game. We're good at it. Psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi coined a term you've probably heard before: flow. It's that sweet spot where challenge meets skill. You're fully immersed, time disappears, you're not even thinking anymore, you're just doing. In old games, they're perfect flow machines. Why? Because you've already done the hard part. No learning curve, no confusion, no tutorial screens or complex new systems. You know how it all works. The controls are muscle memory. You don't need to figure the game out, you get to feel it. That's powerful. In real life, mastering something often takes years, and it's filled with frustration, setbacks, and slow progress, but in a familiar game, mastery is immediate. You log in, and you're already the hero. You're the assassin who never misses, the strategist who always wins, the builder who knows exactly what to craft. It's competence on demand, and that's not just satisfying, it's psychologically restorative. Especially in times when life feels out of control or overwhelming, returning to a space where you excel can feel like reclaiming your agency. It's not just about winning, it's about remembering what it feels like to be capable. Now, let's talk about stories, but not the ones the developers wrote, the ones you created. One of the reasons we replay games, especially open world or sandbox games, is because they're not just stories we experience. They're stories we shape. Take a game like Skyrim. You can play it dozens of times and never take the same path. One run you're a stealth archer siding with the Thieves Guild. Next time a battle mage who burns everything down and joins the Empire. Same game, completely different identity. And that identity, that choice, that's deeply human. Games give us a space to experiment with who we are, to rewrite the story, to make different choices, to test values, personalities, and consequences in a world where nothing is permanent. These games are mirrors, and when we replay them, we're often revisiting different versions of ourselves. That's why people build whole lives in The Sims, or create multiverse sagas in Minecraft, or meticulously roleplay in Fallout, because those stories aren't about the game, they're about you. Some games don't even need to be replayed in the traditional sense, because they never really end. Games like Stardew Valley, The Sims, Animal Crossing, or even MMOs often become part of our daily rhythm. You wake up, feed your digital animals, water the crops, maybe decorate a new room or visit a friend's island. It's not about progression anymore, it's about presence. These games function like rituals. They give us structure, a sense of routine, something predictable in a world that often isn't. That predictability can actually reduce anxiety and help us feel more in control of our environment. Psychologically, it's grounding. In fact, some researchers compare these gaming routines to mindfulness practices. You're focused, you're engaged, you're not doom scrolling or stressing, you're just present in a world where everything makes sense. So, when someone says it's just a farming game, no, it's not. It's therapy. It's peace. It's yours. And finally, there's the power of community. Some games never die, not because of official updates, but because of mods and the players who breathe new life into them. Think Skyrim. Released in 2011, still thriving. Why? Because the modding community has turned it into an infinite game. New quests, new mechanics, whole new worlds. And when a game becomes a platform instead of a product, it gains a second life. Because it's not just about the content, it's about the people. You watch someone else's gameplay, you download a mod they recommended, you share screenshots, tips, stories. That creates what's called a parasocial ecosystem, a kind of a one-way relationship with creators, communities, or even the game itself. And it can be incredibly emotionally fulfilling because now it's not just your game, it's our game. And when something becomes shared like that, it becomes alive. Games stop being disposable entertainment, they become spaces we return to, like a favorite cafe or a hometown bar. So, why do we keep playing the same game? Because it's safe. Because it's satisfying. Because it's personal. And because, in a world that constantly demands something new, there's something sacred about returning to the familiar and finding something new in yourself each time. So, here's my question to you. What's the one game you keep going back to, and why do you think that is? Drop it in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, consider subscribing because here, we don't just play games. We try to understand why they matter. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.